Hi again. Let's explore what the Google Cloud SDK tools offers us. Google Cloud SDK offers you a rich set of command line tools like gcloud, which is used to interact with other Google Cloud Platform APIs or to manage authentication, local configuration, and so on. And then it offers the GSUtil tool, which is used to manage the cloud storage buckets and objects. And it also offers the PowerShell commandlets for Windows users. And then it offers the BigQuery tool and also the kubectl tool. This is to manage the Kubernetes container cluster on gcloud. Now let's get started by installing the Cloud SDK. Okay, I'm going to use the keyword gcloud install. Just to get to that SDK page, you can use other keywords too. And from the results page, I'm going to click one. And this page basically talks about the system requirements and some installation options. The Cloud SDK runs on Linux, Mac OS X, and Windows, right? And it just requires Python 2.7.x. Some tools bundled with the SDK have additional requirements. For example, the Java tools for the app engine development that requires the Java 1.7 or later, right? And then we have a few installation options here. We can either download the version archive or run the interactive installer, which is my preferred method of installing the SDK. Or if you're a Linux user, you can use the apt-get and yum. But if you use yum or apt-get, to install the Cloud SDK, then you run into issue when you remove, update, or install any Cloud SDK components. And that's because the Cloud SDK component manager is turned off when you install the SDK using apt-get or yum. Let me show you a demo of what I mean. So let's use the apt-get method to install the SDK. There are 4 steps here. What I've done is I've copied these steps and then I've pasted in my VM here. I got 2 VMs, red and blue VM, and the red VM is where we are going to show the problem that we face when we use apt-get, right? So just to demo you that, I have that copied and pasted. Good. And please note that we have a requirement here which is Python 2.7.x. I'm just going to make sure that that is there. It's not there. I have only Python 3. I don't have Python 2, but fear not, this apt-get will install that Python 2.7 anyway. So let's go ahead and install this. Okay, type yes to continue. Okay, the Cloud SDK is now installed. We can list all the components by typing the command gcloud components list. And here you can see that some of the components are installed by default and some are not. For example, let's say you're going to manage your fleet of Kubernetes cluster and you would like to have the kubectl command as well. So let's go ahead and copy and paste this gcloud components install and then pass in the ID, which is kubectl, and that will throw an error. And basically it will say that the Cloud SDK component manager is disabled for this installation, right? And that's an issue. You have a workaround. Basically you can copy and paste this and then you can get that working done. That will get installed. But if I say gcloud components list here again, then it will still show that the kubectl is not installed, right? So for some reason this database or table or whatever doesn't get updated, right? And I will face the same issue when I update the component as well. So for example, if I copy and paste that, then it will throw the same error here, right? This becomes a pain, and that's why I suggest you to use that the interactive installer, which is up here. And you have for Linux, Mac OS X, which is pretty much the same commands of for Windows too. Windows installation is straightforward. You just have to download the installer and then just follow the prompts. For Linux, let's say that I want to follow the interactive installer. So let's copy that, and now let's go to my blue VM and let me paste that. But if you think that I made an error here, you're absolutely spot on, because I don't have the Python 2.7 installed, so it will fail, right? Like here it says Python not found. So let's just first install Python 2.7. Okay, Python 2.7 is installed. Now let's repeat the same command, which is this curl command, and that should now successfully install it. Remove it before installing. Yes, because the previous installation failed, we have to remove that. And now it's asking to improve the Cloud SDK feedback. Yes, why not? And then it's installing all the tools here. and it's asking whether to enable shell command completion and modify your profile. Yes. Enter a path. Yes. And so that's done, right? So if now I type gcloud components list, of course I forgot one step here, which is to restart the shell. So $shell, that will restart the shell. And if I just type gcloud components list, that will list all my components here, right? And as usual, kubectl is not installed. So let's take the same scenario where you would like to manage a cluster, Kubernetes cluster. So you would like to install the kubectl. So let's follow the same process here, copy and paste that, then paste the kubectl ID here, and that will successfully install it, not like the previous one which actually failed in the red VM, right? So that is getting installed and the installation is done. So if I bring back my command gcloud components list, that will also show me that the kubectl is actually installed, right? The same goes to gcloud components update as well, and it will now seamlessly update without any problems like we faced in the red VM, right? So this is the first part, which is the installation part. The next step is to initialize using the command gcloud init. So let's type gcloud init, and it's checking for network connection. You must log in to continue. Would you like to log in? Yes. And then it's giving us a very long link, and it's asking us to copy and paste that. So that will give a verification code, and then we can enter the verification code. So I'm going to copy and paste it. And then it's asking choose an account. I got only one account, which is GCP Yoda, and it's basically informing us that the Google Cloud SDK wants to view, manage your applications deployed on Google App Engine, and then view and manage your compute engine resources and manage your data across cloud platform services. Allowed your SDK to do this. Yes, definitely allow it. And then we copy, and then we go back to our shell, and then we paste that, and that will let us to log in as GCP Yoda. And then it's asking us a project to use. We can always switch the project later, but for now let me just use project 1, which is the project that Google created for me when I actually signed up for Google. And then it's asking, would you like to enable the compute engine API? Now, if you remember from the web console demo, we noted that the compute engine API was not enabled in the console, right? And I also mentioned that I'll show you how to enable the API from the Cloud SDK, and that's what we are going to do now. So just let's enable SDK. And the reason we have to enable this, because we want to create VMs using the gcloud from the console, right? And so we press yes. Okay, now it's asking whether to configure Google Compute Engine settings. Yes. And then it's going to ask us, pick a zone from here, right? So this is by default. We can always change it later as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pick Europe West 1B, which is number 12. So now I can actually say gcloud compute instances list. Remember, it's autocomplete. Right now I don't have anything to do here, so I won't have anything here, right? So let's go ahead and create a VM from the command line here, gcloud compute instances create, and then the VM name, I'm just going to say VM1. And the VM creation is done. And if I just bring back my command gcloud compute instances list, that will list my VM, right? And I can verify that by going to my web console and then going to compute engine, and that should show my VM1 here, right? So this is Cloud SDK for you. Let's move on to our next lecture, which is Cloud IAM, stands for Cloud Identity and Access Management. Thank you for listening.